There we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome aboard. Welcome, John. All right. Jake, I think I got all my buttons dialed in here.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Can people see us over there? Yes, they can. We're good. Should we hit the theme music and do the show?
Let's do it.
All right.
CLS's go for main engine, start.
Go at throttle up. Negative return. Then we see a nominal MECO. Welcome to space.
Jake, we're
Anthony,
back.
what's up?
Oh, we didn't decide who was going to do the
We
intro
didn't
this
decide.
time.
You see, and we have a guest with us today who was like, hey, I didn't do my homework on this. And this is what we're talking about. We didn't even decide who was going to talk first. That's basically how Off-Nominal
I know
podcasts
why that happened,
begin.
though, because we usually do it while the intro music is playing, but now we feel pressure doing this on YouTube that we can't have people see that part of the show. So,
We
John,
can't do
you're
our
in
hand
like
signal?
a beta version here of this whole, like, we're also doing video and audio thing. So, welcome aboard, John.
Glad to be here. Seems like it's going to be an adventure.
Yeah, it always is for sure.
Putting
so
that on the
we've
website
got-
real big as like an endorsement.
It's gonna be. We've got our episode title already. It seems like it's going to be an adventure. So we're joined today by a special guest, John Johnson from Harvard University, famed astronomer. We're telling everybody you're really, really important. That's pretty much on par with what we're talking about today, right?
My kids think I'm important, so yeah.
That's great. Anthony, do you want to start with some drinks?
Yes, I went back to beer. I've had momentary trip through wine as I was able to get bulk wine shipments during the mega shutdown phase of the pandemic. So I'm back to a cloud cover Belgian style wheat ale from Ocean, New Jersey, somewhere up there. Let the camera focus. Cane Brewing. Why you let it focus?
There it is.
Cane Brewing, cloud cover. I never had it before, but it sounds kind of planety. Okay, so I went to the beer fridge and I saw one called Low Earth Orbit, but it was an oatmeal stout, which just does not sound good at this time in the summer or ever, really, if you ask me. But
That's a November beer.
yeah, so here I am, back to the beer.
Great. John, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking I'm playing around with barrel aging cocktails. So this is a gin old fashioned. It's got Hendrick's gin and Reagan's orange bitters, plus like some muddled or lemon peel and stuff like that. And then it's been aging for about a month. It's delicious, and there's maybe one left in the barrel. So
That's
amazing.
about the classiest drink we've ever had.
It
on the
100%
show.
is. Yeah, I heard it when it started jingling. I was like, oh boy, here we go. This is gonna be.
I was going to bring a Heineken, but
I like that a lot better. That's way classier. So I went to the liquor store today and I got this one. So I don't know if you can see here. So this is why I bought
the
it.
Wayne
'cause
Gretzky.
It says Wayne Gretzky on the side of it, and so as the Canadian,
It's
part
also
of the
got his
show,
signature as well.
It's got his signature on it. It's got like hockey, the boards wrapping around it, which is pretty good.
No ads on the boards though.
No,
Which is
it's
great.
It's the part the cameras can't see.
Bruins, John? Are you in on the Bruins?
Yeah, you hockey guy?
No, not in the Bruins. Okay, great. That's actually my preferred answer to that question.
okay, cool. I promise to be honest with y'all tonight.
That's good. So have you become a hockey person at all by moving to
Nope.
Boston? No, nothing.
No, I grew up in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And so my opportunity to be into hockey was that I was surrounded by the only professional team, well, other than the Cardinals, in town. And so I never got on the hockey bus or the Zamboni or whatever it's called.
The hockey bus, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm now only referring to them as hockey buses when they come out between periods. Like, oh, there's
Yeah,
the
isn't that
hockey
what
bus.
isn't that what it's called? The hockey bus?
Close enough.
All right.
Yeah,
Jake,
close
should
enough.
we do an update on our campaign here?
I think we should, yeah. So one of the reasons we wanted to have you on, John, is that we put together this fundraiser, and we actually, this suggestion of supporting the Banneker Institute actually came from a listener. So I think that's a really cool part of what we're doing here.
Awesome. We got all these donations out of nowhere. We're like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So because we actually, we were thinking about ways that we could help, and we went to our listeners and said, we don't want to just decide, me and Anthony, what we're doing. And someone suggested, I'm trying to remember who it was, maybe someone in the Discord can point it out to me, but someone was like, hey, there's this great institution here that does this cool program called the Banneker Institute. We checked it out, and it's pretty awesome. So we've been supporting that organization, as well as Black Girls Code. So sort of a pairing of the two charities. We're inviting listeners to choose which one they want to do, and then we're matching those funds, which is pretty great.
That is great. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we at today? What did the number this morning look at?
7,683.
Yeah. So the listeners have done a pretty tremendous job so far. We've got 2 weeks left on this thing, so we really want to kind of drive it home on these last 13 days as of recording this. It'll probably be 10 or so when this comes out, whatever.
Yeah, and this is just the listener number, not the matching, which is awesome. So we were just like totally shocked that we had no idea what to expect just based on the response, but everyone has just been like killing it. So it's awesome to have that. And on one note, when somebody brought up the Banneker Institute, I was like, boy, should I not have thought about that sooner? Because not only do we know about your organization, John, but you can see my screen, I think, here. My block, literally on my block, was the first of the Banneker Institutes named after him. This one disconnected from your institute, but back in 1854 on my block was the Benjamin Banneker Institute here in Philadelphia. It moved around a couple of times since through different parts of the city, but I walk by this sign like every day, and so when somebody said it, I was like, well, yeah, because the link that got posted in the chat was, I think Smithsonian did an article on the program a couple of years back, and I remember seeing that, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have thought about that sooner with the local connection here. So we are totally pumped. We'd love to hear, if you want, to talk a little bit about the program itself and maybe how it started and where it's at today. I know you just I saw you tweeting recently that the newest program has started. I'm sure a different kind format this year, given the state of the world. So I'd love to hear about that as well.
Yeah, it is different this year. The Banneker Institute is named after Benjamin Banneker, who was the first professional astronomer in the United States. And he was the son of freed slaves. So he was a black man living in the late 1700s into the 1800s. He wrote an almanac with one of the most accurate predictions of an eclipse at that time. And back then, when you did astronomy, it wasn't so much that you were looking for specific phenomena. You were using the night sky to do survey work, for example, or navigation. And he was an expert surveyor using the night sky. And so the work that was done to do the survey work, the layout of Washington, D.C. was, the history books will record that it was done by, I used to know the guy's name. This Quaker fella, I can't remember his name, but he was actually
sorry for all the Quaker stuff.
He was the white front man for Benjamin, who did all of the actual work. And so, being that time, it wasn't black people weren't allowed to have such a high position. They would never have been hired. He would never have been allowed to do that work. But it just shows that when you have a white ally working for you, you can get some stuff done from time to time. And so we named the Institute after him. The program is set up. I tell people that it's not a diversity program. We're not aiming for diversity. I think that diversity is a distraction. Diversity programs, in my mind, are kind of like in the middle of COVID-19, suggesting that people stop getting the flu. And it's like, well, sure, but also, like, can we actually address the real problem? Mm-hmm. And it's not so much that it's an actual flu, it is the specific disease that we're battling. We need specific solutions to it. And so the Banneker Institute is established not to solve the problem of the lack of black and brown folks in astronomy by just sprinkling them into the mix. That's not going to work. It hasn't proven to work, mainly because our institutions are not established to help those people thrive. They were not. It was built for and by white men. That's the history of it right there. And we're still living with that legacy. So in order to correct for that, then we need to have a program that gets at the source of the problem, which is systemic racism and institutional racism in our university environments. And so, having been one of the pioneering Black folks that came up through that system and got all the way to the top, I decided that I wanted to use my position to reach back and help others so that they might not run into the same barriers and difficulties that I ran into. And so what we do is we just let them know what's up. Like, you're going to be audacious enough to be a Black person and want to study astrophysics in America. All right, cool. Like, but let's make sure that you know what you're signing up for. And so I draw on my experience, the experience of other people in the community. And then we just generally try to give these students a leg up by allowing them to pass through Harvard, use our resources here, and maybe help further their hopes and dreams of getting a PhD in astrophysics.
I know there's like, so I'll preface this because Anthony and I are like, we live not in the astronomy world. we were kind of joking before about like, you know, so he does a lot of rockets and business. I do a lot of planetary science, like local planetary science. And so we go maybe to Pluto, and then after that, it's a big fugue. It's a big,
I love the term
war.
local planetary science.
Yeah.
It's local astrophysics.
I love it.
Yeah, local astrophysics. So I mean, I don't know the industry as well, but I know that in say planetary science, there's this big problem where you don't have a lack of, like, you know, diverse people coming into the industry. So if you look at, like, you know, year one undergrad enrollments, it's like, it's not too bad. It's progressing further down the career, and as you go further up to the top of these institutions, it just thins out and becomes more white and more middle. So is that the same sort of thing in astronomy? That's sort of
it's the story of America, really. If you take any profession where our society in general puts a lot of weight and value on it, then what you're going to find is that the further up you go in any hierarchy, you're going to just find it becoming whiter and whiter. So astrophysics, there was a survey done by Donna Nelson back in 2008 that showed that of the top 40 astrophysics programs in the United States, that the professorate was 91% white, 1% Black, 1% Latinx, 0% Indigenous, and that compares to 68% of the population for white people, 13% of the population for Black people, about 12% for Latinx. So you can see that there's what scientists would call an order of magnitude discrepancy. And so astronomers play it fast and loose. So if you give us a factor of 2, we're happy. But when you give us an order of magnitude, that factor of 10, then that causes even astronomers to take notice. And so what I started becoming very curious about as I was pursuing my PhD was, I became very interested about planets around other stars, and therefore I became very interested about stars themselves, stellar structure, stellar evolution. And then eventually I just started asking them the other scientific question, which was, where are all the Black folks? You know, like, this is a legitimate question and nobody seems to be asking it. And when I ask questions about it, I don't seem to get very satisfying answers. So I decided to start pursuing it as if it were a research question. And here I am today. It's one of my primary focuses, especially now that I have tenure, I can do whatever I want. I've gotten really far afield from astrophysics, as it turns out. And so, I think the joke is that, especially for physicists, is that, first you get your PhD, then you become a professor, and then you get tenure and you become an economist. Well, I'm interested in economics, so there you go.
Oh, that's good. So could we hear a little bit about your career? Because I think you've got some pretty good stories behind it. So I'm looking through my list of talking points here. That maybe we could talk about some of your early career. You did some work on LIGO, I think I read somewhere. Yeah, like,
back in the day.
Way back in the day, right?
I was OG LIGO. I started doing that in 1999 as a REU student at Caltech. And that actually proved, that was I think probably a big part of why I got accepted to Caltech and to UC Berkeley and a couple other really good schools to study physics. And this is because as an undergraduate, I studied physics, never looked through a telescope until my last semester in college. And I just went up to there was, I think, Shoemaker-Levy was coming through at that time. And so we went to the campus telescope, and there was a really old physicist who used to run that telescope, and he let us look through it. But that was the first time. I don't have that story of growing up with my father buying me a telescope for Christmas, and we went out to the backyard and I saw the wonders of the night sky. I don't have that story. I lived in St. Louis. It was hot and humid. I wasn't trying to go outside at night in the summer. It was nasty.
Wouldn't seem a lot
cloudy.
for the soup either, based on the humidity that we're dealing with now in the summer on the East Coast even.
Exactly. So, I did not grow up with astronomy, but I did do LIGO, and that involves big, massive things falling into each other and crashing and making space ripple. And that was really interesting. And I read Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time, and some other popular popular cosmology books, and I got really interested in that because I actually grew up learning creationism. Like, I grew up thinking that the Big Bang was of the devil and everything, and when I started actually studying it, when I heard people actually describe it, I was like, this makes so much more sense. This actually feels like it gives God more credit. Because it takes a lot of engineering to make it such that you have a Big Bang, and then things cool, and you get the four forces, and then you get fundamental particles. And I was just like, wow, it just unrolls like that? That's really good engineering. So I was hooked, and I was on board with that. So I was planning on going to graduate school to get my PhD in physics. I was going to do rocket experimentation or balloon-borne experimentation. I was going to do some CMB work. I had it all planned out. I knew what I was going to do. And then I didn't do any of it. And so the first school that got back to me was UC Berkeley. And I was working at LIGO after my bachelor's degree. I went back to Caltech. And so I drove from Los Angeles to the Bay Area, and then went to visit Berkeley on this gorgeous March day. And I got to meet some cool people in the astronomy department. The students had just gotten back from a softball game, and they were really stoked because they were going to the playoffs. And so I talked with them and caught that energy. And then the next day I went walking through campus, and there were hot women sunning on the lawn and everything. And I was like, wow, this is
love in California.
Yeah, this Missouri boy's got to get out here. This is amazing. And they're going to pay me? Are you kidding? So I actually kind of made my decision on that trip. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to learn astrophysics because this is awesome. And I went to go visit the campus. On that visit, I should say, I knew I was going to be meeting with a famous planet hunter. And so I went to a CVS. I remember going to a CVS and buying my first ever issue of Astronomy magazine. And on the cover, it said, it was all about exoplanets, and it said 33 planets known around other stars. And I was like, whoa, I haven't been paying attention. That's amazing. So I started reading that.
Little did you know.
We're going to circle back to that a lot more, but I love how exoplanets went from, wow, isn't it so cool, to we have billions of them, essentially. Right? No, it's not billions, but it went from 0 to 60 so quick and then everyone accepted it. And that's that right there.
Yeah.
33, holy shit.
Now there's catalogs.
Yeah.
Which one?
When I give public talks, they often I often get a question from the audience that says, what do you imagine it'll be like when we find our first extraterrestrial signal, intelligence signal? And I said, well, first, nobody's going to believe it. And then a couple of decades will go by with people arguing whether it's real. And then somebody will confirm statistically that it's real. And then everybody will be bored. And then it'll eventually be some annoying thing that some freshman has somewhere.
Sounds a lot like a really slow version of the pandemic, but I don't want to get too deep into that.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the pandemic either, actually, but I think that is actually the natural progression of the way that science actually works. And I think that people imagine that if we found some amazing inhabited planet, and we had hard proof of some sort or another magically that they were signaling to us, it's not the way it looks in contact. It never is.
Yeah.
It's going to be somebody issuing a press release and the rest of the community thinking that they went too early to try to get too much press on it, to try to get their next grant in. And then somebody's going to come along and try to disprove it. And then everybody's going to believe that person because they're going to of course they're going to believe
They're
that
going to write
person.
a really good Medium article on it.
Yes. Well, that too, that's going to come. And
it'll be like ALH 8401 or whatever, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But that's the way
Bill
scientific
Clinton will do a press
actually works.
conference about it.
Wait, anyway, you were in CVS
not.
and I totally distracted us.
Yeah, so I was at CBS, bought that issue of Astronomy magazine, and I read it that night, and then went and met with my future advisor. And so from that point on, I was pretty much involved in exoplanets and stars. And so after my PhD, made a stop in Hawaii. From there, spent 4 years as a professor at Caltech, and then in 2013, I moved to Harvard. Here I am.
So I read that this exoplanet work you're doing. This is what really caught. So I'm a Mars guy, and so I caught this line from, I think, a Wikipedia article. So you found the first Mars-sized exoplanet, basically.
Yeah, that's what our press release said.
Yeah.
How about the Medium article?
Yeah, what did the Medium article say?
The Medium article also missed the fact that there were error bars. So yeah, sure.
Okay, so it's somewhere between the Moon and Jupiter, probably. But okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, and that was with Kepler data, I think, right? So Kepler is like, I don't know, it's legendary mission status basically in the exoplanet world, right? Yeah,
Kepler was my. It's the big mission of my career, I would say.
Yeah.
And Kepler was really fun to work on. I was not invited to be a part of the Kepler science team. And I kind of found myself as an outsider when I first got to Caltech. And I had a graduate student at the time, Tim Morton, who's a professor at USC now, I think. He and I were just fiddling around at the chalkboard doing order of magnitude calculations about how believable the detections from Kepler would be. So how many false positives would you really expect? Because at the time it was super pessimistic. They were thinking like 9 out of 10 signals were going to be false positives. And so you're going to have to weed through 9 nothing balls to get to a planet. And we just were thinking, this doesn't seem right. Like with the precision that Kepler is going to have, I think it's going to do better than that. So I was thinking 4 out of 10. But we ended up with a false positive rate of like 1%. And
wow.
So, yeah, we went ahead and did the whole thing much more detailed, including mocking up an entire model of the galaxy, which is fun. And then he did, well, it's Tim's work. I got to give credit to Tim. And so once we published that, nobody believed it. Just that whole story. Nobody believed it. We fought with the referee for 1.5 years. So it ended up being like, by the time people actually finally believed it, Kepler was well underway and they were already seeing it. So it was basically like an I told you so article. But that's how we got into Kepler. And so after we did that, we were just like, well, all right, cool. We got some nice tools. Let's see what we can find. And so we went poking around where nobody else was looking. And one of the things we found was that really tiny, compact planetary system around a tiny Jupiter-sized star. It's basically a Jupiter-sized star with a Jovian satellite arrangement of planets around it. So rather than it looking analogous to a solar system, it looked analogous to Jupiter and its moons. But it's a planet and a star. Planets and a star.
That's so cool.
It was really cool.
So I was reading about all these exoplanets, and I don't know, I've just been thinking about how I can't wait till we can image one of these or somehow get some sort of much more direct observation. I know a lot of the exoplanet detection methods are really indirect or circumspect or whatever. But just the thought of learning about a new planet, people my age don't really have that joy. The closest I can imagine is when they finally got to Pluto and we got to see what it looked like instead of 16 pixels or whatever it was before that.
We don't have anything like that, by the way.
No.
I don't want to burst anybody's bubbles. We've got nothing like 16 pixels.
How do you feel about the fan fiction illustrations that always are released alongside? I hate them personally, and I know you probably know people that did them, but where are we at? I mean, I know you gotta have, like, if you want to catch some interest, you need some good image with it, but like, do they just sit there and draw exoplanets, and then you say, I found one that's roughly this size, and they say, I drew one of those last Tuesday, and they pull one of them out? How does that work? Or do you say, this one I feel should have a red sky, and then they draw it? How does this work?
Yeah. There's a NASA office. It used to be Michelle Johnson who ran that office. It's the press office for NASA. I don't know if Michelle's still doing that, but there's a team of digital artists. And when we did that, they were basically just commissioned to do a bunch of art after looking at our paper, and then they sent us some proofs, and we were like, that one looks pretty good. But for this Kepler 42 system, let me just see if I can find it. I thought the art turned out pretty good. I was really pleased. Yeah. So if you look up Kepler 42 art, I think you'll find some of the better exoplanet art out there. But it's really, really hard to get a frame where you have the star and the planet in the frame, where the planet is illuminated in a way where you can actually see it as a planet. And so what ends up happening is that the angles don't work out. And once you know to look for it, you can't unsee it. So I'm sorry. But that's the main issue that comes up for me.
The one on Wikipedia here?
Yeah, I like that one. I use that all the time.
That's pretty good.
But if you look at that inner planet, if you consider the fact that in order for it to be that scale, it's got to be actually in between you and the star. So there's just no way that it can be illuminated at almost a quarter phase like that. So that's the kind of thing that bugs me.
Now I really want to know, you hand your paper over to this artist, and I'm guessing these papers are just basically like a bunch of like light curve formulas and tables, and they're like, I think it's kind of round.
I'm feeling orange out of this this graph.
This one's
that's why I don't complain about it. I have a lot of respect for those artists.
It's incredible art. I don't want to disparage the actual artistic nature of it. It's like, let me rephrase. Maybe it's the positioning of those images amongst common media that's like, look at the Earth-sized planet. It looks like Earth, and it's like it probably doesn't.
That's why I love this one. Look at that. You can just see there's no atmosphere. It's got a nice cratered surface. It looks very like Mars or Mercury like. It's great. I love this. This is such good art.
It's giving me some major urges to play Kerbal Space Program right now.
No kidding.
Hardcore.
Oh, wow. Do you do work with TESS as well? I know TESS is now it's the new hotness for exoplanets, but it's pretty different from Kepler, right?
It is different in that Kepler looked at only one patch of the sky that was about as big as two of your hands put together at arm's length. So it's about 10 degrees by 10 degrees right near the constellation Lyra, just off the galactic plane. And Kepler just stared at that thing. Didn't have a shutter, no moving parts really. It just had a camera, a CCD camera that just took an image of that field every minute, and then it mashed 30 of those together into a 30-minute frame, and then eventually that thing got downloaded. And it just stared at that field. And so there was a huge haul of planets by being able to look very deep and looking in a dedicated way. TESS is actually doing an all-sky survey. And so it only sits on each field for 30 days at a time. Up near its poles, the fields overlap, so it gets up to 180 days up near the poles. And so it's really trying to do a much more full sky survey of what planets there are out there. And I initially was going to be involved with TESS, but just circumstances arranged such that Kepler ended up being my major mission, and then it closed down, and I moved on to other things.
Yeah, the timeline.
But TESS is great.
The TESS, the way that you're describing it, I think there's some resonances between TESS data, and then you're going to use what you find there to maybe use some next instrument to zoom in on what might be interesting. It feels a little bit like you kind of
like a survey.
tick-tock between really detailed surveys and then, okay, let's expand the view a little bit, find what else is interesting, and zoom in there. Is that kind of the idea there?
Yeah, it's Kepler gave us the. I don't know exactly the one way you can think about Kepler is that it gave us the statistical certainty that the planets were out there, so that if you looked over the entire sky, the planets would just fall out of the sky everywhere, like every star. Yeah. The last paper that I published on the statistics of this was in 2016 with Sarah Ballard, and we found that every star in the Milky Way has something like 5 to 7 planets.
Does that depend on your definition of planet?
Nope, it just means
like
straight up planet.
How about Pluto? Like what? You know what I mean?
We're not down there, so we don't have that sensitivity. Our sensitivity means we get to avoid the Pluto question.
Yeah,
but,
good point.
If you can see it at the planet,
yeah. And I'm not going to say either way. I don't want any controversy on this, but but that means that there are more planets in the Milky Way than there are stars by a significant margin.
By a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and so with TESS being all sky, I think it got a significant boost from the statistical results from Kepler, and so with TESS, I just it was really cool also to watch my students grow up with Kepler and then go off to become PIs, professors even, and they're all leaders in TESS now. And so that I'm having a lot of fun watching that play out.
Yeah, it's the generational spacecraft phenomenon.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I've never really been. I mean, it's the only experience I have, so I'm going to trust you that it's a general thing. I guess is what I'm saying.
But we see that, like, I do a lot of the planetary mission stuff, and that's what we see a lot there, right? You've got all these great stories of on Mars, these young scientists getting started with like the Opportunity rover, and now they're running Curiosity, right? So it's like the exact same style of thing. You're blowing the minds of some of our listeners about Kepler, about the looking in one spot. That's kind of how it has to work too, because one of the things I think about is like if you're measuring an exoplanet with like a light curve, which is like when the planet passes in front of the star, and so the star dims, and so you can see when it comes in one side and goes out the other. You depend on the year length of that planet, right? And so if you're only looking at the sky for like 2 years and you have a planet like Jupiter, you may never see it in 2 years, right?
And you have to be positioned in that planet is going to go between you and the star.
Yeah,
which that's the one that blows my mind, is that you have all this data on planets that happen to orbit the stars directly in our line of sight to that star. Right?
Well, that's where my collaborators and I were able to do a lot of really good work, was taking the fact that if you see this number of planets that have just the right geometric alignment to eclipse their star, then that means that you're missing some number, and that's roughly the inverse of the detection probability, but it actually it's more complicated than that. And so what you can do is that you can say, oh, we found 40, and then you can back out the fact that you're actually looking at 300 and something. Right. And so the statistical result that I gave you before about there being 5 to 7 planets per star comes from work similar to that. It's basically saying if we make assumptions about the way the planets are aligned in the system, which we actually left as a free parameter. Feel really proud of that one. And then if you just populate these systems randomly, and then you kind of put them into your virtual sky, and then you use your virtual Kepler to detect them, you can just see exactly how many of them you're missing and how many of them you're detecting. And so we were able to tune the mutual alignments and number of planets per star, and then actually get it to match what we observed. And that's where we got that big result.
That is amazing. I love that. I wonder, you said you were working on LIGO in the 90s, right? So you were around in the era when exoplanets were like still not
like made up.
Yeah, like there weren't a lot of them, and we didn't really know. And did it back then also seem like, because I personally grew up in an era when it was like, there's planets everywhere. Like that's not even a thing, right? Like of course there's planets freaking everywhere. Why wouldn't you think that they're everywhere? So what was that transition like? Where did everyone kind of no.
Like the mental space changed, right?
Yeah, because and then we've had a similar thing with water in the solar system where it was like, we're the only ones with water. And then it was like, oh, no, there's water pretty much in every body that you can find, including like old, asteroids that are still out there we thought were dead. So what's that transition phase like that now we're into the thousands of exoplanets confirmed and it's generally accepted? I guess this goes back to the boring cycle as we're talking about. But.
Yeah. So I got to start in an era where if you found a planet, you were going places. And so finding a planet or maybe up to 5 or 6 planets was you make your career on that. And so that was 2000, 30 or so planets. By the time I graduated in 2007, it was kind of getting to the point where we were not able to reference the name of the star and know exactly what we were talking about, because it was just like, wait, which one? Really? Oh, I didn't know that one had a planet too. And that was exciting. That's when I started realizing that there's a lot of really cool, like if you can do statistics right, then you can really make a name for yourself. So that's when 2007 to 2013 is when I was really trying to push our community to start using Bayesian statistics. It was a big deal in astronomy at the time. And so, for me, it was exciting to see the numbers increase the way they were and to be able to give talks and show people how it was changing from year to year. But I think the biggest impact for me was that the number of planets that were coming in each year was actually a big guiding force in how I was doing my research, and it was shaping my career, and it was taking me places. So for me personally, it was more the like, ooh, neat, we can do some cool math with this.
That sounds a lot like your fantastic mindset on it, where I feel like there's definitely probably some people out there that had gatekeeper phenomena, which was like, no, I'm the one with the planet names, and they don't want the increase in planets because that's going to diminish their power, right? Like that. Yeah, that's very typical of many things in the world, and there are people like yourself that have that mindset that's like, no, a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm going to jump on this, and I'm going to let it shape my path.
Yeah. That doesn't. Yeah, the rising tide thing doesn't work in a capitalist society, and so it's just one of those things that we have to accept about the world we live in, is that it's based on the idea of individuals looking to maximize their own returns, and so. If you're cool with that, then you're going to be cool with the level of competition that actually I think drives down the quality of scientific work. Whereas personally, I would much, much rather it just not matter how many papers I publish and how many planets are discovered. I'd much rather it be a collective enterprise where we as human beings are trying to determine something about the universe. Because look, I don't own a planet. I get a credit for finding it, but it's really weird, the mentality in this country where people think that it's like, oh yeah, that's your planet. It's like, wait, are you serious? That thing, I just happen to know that it's there. And so it's a real challenge for me, I think, because I just don't like cutthroat competition in the realm of science. It really, to me, it just really takes away the fun when you're thinking like, oh, I just found something, and the very next thought you have is, I might get scooped, and then the next thought after that is, oh my God, where will my funding come from? Mm-hmm. And that's how. So I think that there's not enough thought about the consequences of that, and it kind of goes with a lack of acknowledgement of what is the exact kind of world we live in, and people don't really care about that kind of question.
Yeah, I've seen some parts of that. I mean, Anthony and I tend not to do breaking news. We're not scoopers, that kind of sense. But I've seen, I've gone to a couple science conferences, and I've been party to a couple of pre-embargo papers where come by tomorrow, 11 a.m. We're gonna lift the embargo. You can cover it. Here's the scoop. And it's and they come after you as a journalist, and they're like, you got to cover this. This is a secret special thing. And then even if I don't even care about it, I'm kind of oh, gee, should I go with this? I feel like I have to go to this. They're making it sound really important, and then it's I bet you that release is probably getting a lot more attention than it it's probably more attention than it actually deserves, and then you wonder how many papers weren't embargoed that are super important, don't get that attention.
It's a lot like when you
and
go
then,
to
of
any of
course,
the tourist centers of any city, and there are the restaurants where there are people on the street waving you in. It's a good sign that like probably not the restaurant to go to in this part of town if they need to beg you to come into the restaurant, right? Probably not the ones that the locals are loving.
Yeah.
It's a good point, and it's definitely true with press releases. That it's one of the most difficult things for me is not difficult. One of the funny things that happens to me as an astronomer is like going to a new city, taking a cab from the airport, and having the cab driver like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm an astronomer." And like, "Hey, did you know about the thing that they found in the place?" And you're like, "No, actually, I am not even really curious. You want to tell me about it?" I guess these press releases are not for astronomers. They're for the general public, and it's all about flashiness. It's all about what's going to catch like clicks and page views, and it just. I remember the first time I did my first press release, and I was just like, "Oh, I can't wait to share the science." And by the time it was all done, it was reduced down to this like, "This is the blankest thing of the blankest place," or whatever, and you're just like, boy, you really stretched to find the ist in that. I just thought it was cool science because
you got to find a way to make it the first something, right?
Yeah, you got to be the first or the biggest,
the first Mars-sized exoplanet.
Exactly. the most Mars-like exoplanet with the most Jupiter-like exoplanets in the same system, and it's like, that wasn't actually the point.
I had one press release at a LPSC once that was, it was some new way to like spray like aluminum or something into clouds that would like stop global warming. Like it was some totally far out. And it was the exact same thing. Like, we're going to be in this room at this time. Really important that you be there. And I was like, I can't do this one. This one, like, I'm like, this is a science conference and this is pseudoscience. Like right here. Like,
there's a dude with a chemtrails desk set up right outside.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's selling the aluminum too, which is the nice thing. So, but So other stuff that you're working on, I want to make sure before we run out of time that we talk about Minerva, because this is like something that you're the PI of. I looked at the website. There's not a lot there, so I kind of want to hear from you. What is this thing that we're working on here?
Yeah. So the Minerva heyday is perhaps a little bit behind us. So I say that with a little sadness in my heart, but it was an idea of that basically was born out of less is more, I guess. It was at a time when everybody's talking about the 30-meter telescope and the Giant Magellan telescope and the extremely large telescope,
the biggest telescope, the most awesomest, biggest, goldest telescope.
Exactly, gold-plated, biggest, superbest telescope. And I was thinking, well, okay, look, Kepler was a 1-meter telescope. TESS is like 16-centimeter telescopes. Some of the best exoplanetary science is being conducted with really small telescopes that you could actually buy from amateur telescope manufacturers. And so I thought, okay, if you don't care about making a pretty image, which we don't for most of exoplanetary science because there's no image to take, and all you care about is jamming light into an instrument through some means, well, how about buying a bunch of small telescopes? Doesn't that get the job done? And it seems to scale really well. And so this is my first foray into like bringing economics into astrophysics. And so I had my group this was before I had tenure too.
Oh, it's practice.
Yeah, it was all practice, all warm up. So I had my group. We had a series of group meetings where we worked on what is the most efficient in terms of like planets per dollar. What's the most efficient way of finding planets? Is it with a 30-meter class telescope? Is it with several 10-meter Keck-sized telescopes? Or is it perhaps with a bunch of amateur telescopes, like 1-meter class or smaller? And what we found was that the telescope's price scales is the diameter of the mirror squared or cubed. It's some really high power. Actually, a paper where we have a plot that shows this, and I created the plot by calling a bunch of telescope manufacturers and just like getting quotes. And so,
like, how much would 1,000 of these particular mirrors? And they're like, what? Like, so go to Orion.com or whatever. Like,
now I have to find this plot. I'm sorry. You're talking to a scientist.
The crazy part is that this is the strategy that Google had in the early days, which was, let's not buy one expensive server. Let's just buy a bunch of shitty servers, and a ton of them are going to die, but we're going to buy so many it doesn't matter. This is that kind of model. Yeah.
Cloud computing using people's desktops.
Yep.
Where you distributed computing
that way.
Old school
SETI, right? Wasn't old school SETI like that?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
A whole bunch of commercial lunar landers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, here it is in Figure 1 of Swift et al. 2014. It shows that the price of telescopes above 1 meter scales as the square of the diameter. So it does this d squared. But if you add telescopes, a bunch of small telescopes together, you can follow, you actually are on this totally different price curve. And you can beat by, I think, a decent factor, almost a factor of 10. You could build a array of these small telescopes acting together as a bigger telescope. And so that's Minerva is the Greek myth of the childs of a god that were born out of the head of somebody. I used to know this whole story. God, I don't know this story. This is what happens when you. This is what happens when you turn 40, everybody. All your listeners, watch out. Like, this sucks. I can't remember anything. So something Greek gods born out of the head. And so we made an acronym to fit that. And because it was our group's idea. Like, we had this great idea, and we got funding to do it. And we put together a collaboration where it was bring your own telescope. So I used my startup funds when I started as a professor to buy one of these telescopes, and then I had 3 collaborators who each used their startup funds to buy a telescope, and then we combined them up at Mount Hopkins, and we did a really beautiful proof of concept that shows that this is a viable way of doing planet hunting. And we didn't really get to the point where we're able to discover planets with it. But in the back of my head, I always had this backup plan where I was like, I could always call it proof of concept even if we don't find it. And so that's where we are. Check it out. Look where we are today.
It does. I was reading. It does this. So like, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can detect exoplanets, right? So like we talked about the light curve one. This is like this. The name's gonna be wrong because I don't remember it either. But it's like when they wobble because of gravity, right? What is it called?
Yep. The wobble technique.
The wobble technique, yeah, okay. This is fascinating. So basically, like, the star is just bouncing back and forth, right? Because the planets are tugging on it as they orbit. That's essentially it.
Yeah. The myth is that planets orbit stars. The reality is that planets and their star orbit their mutual center of mass.
Yeah.
So in the solar system, the point around which all things in the solar system orbits is roughly at the sun's surface. It's about 1 solar radius away from the center of the sun. And so as the planets go, the sun goes. And so the tiny motion of the sun compared to the motion of the planets is not much, but the star is the brightest thing in the system. So look at the star and you can see the motion of the planets indirectly.
I don't think I knew that it was a whole solar radius away from the center. I thought
Nor
it would
did
be
I.
Like
that's crazy.
5% away from the center or something. That's crazy.
It is, yeah. If you take the mass of Jupiter and 5.2 AU, take the mass of the sun, and you just find the center of mass, it's right there.
That's wild.
I guess, because Jupiter is like 95% of the solar system planetary mass, right?
Oh, yeah. So first approximation is all Jupiter. That's right.
Doesn't matter.
That's the astronomer way to do it.
Actually, it doesn't matter how many planets you think there are. It's just Jupiter.
Ignore all the other planets. The sun and Jupiter is the system. Yeah.
Look, I teach both an introduction to exoplanets course and an introductory to astronomy course here at Harvard. And the students learn by the first week that in this class, the value of pi is 3.
I thought you were going to say 10.
No, not quite. Not that bad. Not that bad. Remember, we're fine with the factors of 2. We're not cool with the orders of magnitude.
Okay.
Amazing.
Oh, wow. So we're getting close to the end here. I wanted to just make sure we circle back to the Banneker Institute and kind of just, so you talked a bit about your career, which is really cool to see. And I know some of the listeners have been asking, like, what specifically can Banneker do to help, the students you get through that, kind of learn from that career you just described, right? Like, what are the specific activities that help with that?
What we do is we actually take a look at what race is in the United States, and we do a historical examination of the origins of race. Because if you're going to ask the question of where all the Black people are, you're asking a question about race. And if you don't know what race is or the history of it, which I would say, like, frankly, is about 95% of the people in the country don't know what it is and what its history is. But once you start understanding that race existed and it was invented in this country and used for a specific reason, you can start reading for why it still exists. And when you have that understanding, it's not going to stop racism from affecting you as a person of color trying to climb through the ranks, but it might help you understand it to the point where you're not going to blame yourself. And so I spent a lot of my time blaming myself, thinking like I didn't go to a good enough undergraduate institution, or I only did physics, I didn't do astrophysics, or I don't really understand the academic environment as well as my peers do. And I was just always assuming that I was a step behind, or felt a little left out just because I didn't know enough, that I wasn't doing it right. And there are just myriad ways that all of the little microaggressions add up to being something significant. And, if you come from the perspective, if you believe that all people are created equal, which means that statistically speaking, a group of 1,000 white guys and 1,000 Black women have the same distribution of talents in them, then you have to look at the disparities in their representation as not something that's intrinsic to them, but instead it's something about the landscape that those two groups of people are traversing. And so, as scientists, we know the idea of using test particles to sense things that you cannot see. Well, if the few tiny number of Black people in astrophysics are the test particles, then that's a really strong evidence that there's some force there, even if you can't see it, even if it's not legible to you. And so helping the students just know that that's a part of the experience that they can expect, while at the same time having them here at a top institution where they're being challenged at the highest level, they're doing actually like graduate level work, and they're seeing, I can do this. And they're doing it in an environment where you have a self-supporting group of people that looks just like them. You have all of this confirmation all summer long that this is something that I can do. I actually do belong here. There's a reason why people like me aren't here, and here are some solutions for it. That's the approach that I'm taking. And we've been running for 6 years. That's about enough time for our earliest students to start graduating soon with their PhDs. Mm-hmm. And that's one measure of success. I think the other measure of success is just the stories that we hear back from the students saying that, like, this was a really important part of my education, where I got to be at the top astronomy department in the country and to finally feel like I can breathe. And hearing that, it's like, I don't care who graduates and what numbers, it's like, I feel like I'm doing something at that point,
I'm sure there's also going to be that network effect of them finding. I'm sure most of the students are coming from different spots in the country, maybe even world, that they don't know each other before they get there, and they're going to bond in a good friend group there. And stay in touch throughout their career. They're going to meet each other at conferences again, or work on some projects together. And it's that fortuitous cycle of work that they're going to be making their way together. They have that support network as they grow up throughout the industry, and they can call each other on a Friday night and be like, I had a really shitty day at work. I need to vent. Are you there? And that stuff, even just, I think everyone who's working knows that they probably had that moment where they were working with a team that they like really bonded with, and they're still the people that they're texting all day. They're just the people that you were in the trenches with on that project that you feel like you were like at your prime.
Yeah, yeah. That's like those. That's all the hope. Like that's the story that I hope comes out of all of this. Um, and yeah, so I really appreciate you thinking about us and the support from your listener base. I just got a text from my project, my program administrator, Christine Benoit, and she's
I
very
saw her in the
excited
YouTube
about.
chat. She's hanging out watching as well.
Oh, is she in there? Okay. Hi, Christine. And Christine does an amazing job helping this program keep going. Um, and yeah, so wish us luck.
What kind of stuff do you do with the money? This is another listener question too. Is like where
Yeah.
does the money get used to? And I think especially the underlying question is, hey, Harvard's pretty rich. Why are they not funding it? Right. So like, what do you do with the money?
Well, here's the secret about Harvard's wealth is that it's not for you. Like if you're here, not for you. The endowment is largely earmarked for specific projects. So it's like this specific kind of cancer research lab, or this specific kind of innovation lab, or this specific kind of economics building or annex or whatever. And so, once all of that is accounted for and distributed throughout the year, that might not leave anything for a program like the Banneker program. Although I do got to give a shout out to my science dean, who's really stretched for us, and also the Harvard College Observatory, which we're actually now part of of the endowment of the observatory. So we are getting some funding, but even at the richest place, even at the biggest name college, you still, to do something like this, you got to use the ancient art of the hustle. And we've been doing that for 6 years, and we're going to keep doing it. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the results.
Yeah.
As for what do we, and to answer what do we do it for, with the extra cash, it means that we get to do better quality sandwiches for our lunch get-togethers, or it means that we can do higher quality T-shirts for our Banneker T-shirts. It goes towards, like, once we get back in person, it means that we can maybe do an additional trip along with our Six Flags trip that we want to do every year. So your donations are going towards making the summer experience for these students just that much better, and it's really appreciated.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hope if next summer the world is back to normal, I can take a short drive up and come hang out for a day or something.
Yeah, come on over.
I'll
give you a
hang
tour.
out. I've actually never been to Boston.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
That's pretty weird that you've never been to Boston, and I've been there like twice.
I've never been. I don't know why. I was supposed to go at the end of last year for other reasons, but I never made it.
Okay.
I'm kind of bummed. I want to go, man. I want to go.
We should do a joint trip there, and then we can do an off-nominal meetup.
That is the way to do it. Yes.
There we go. See, we've got it figured out.
Yes.
Oh, and Christine is noting in the chat over here at YouTube that we also get books, and we can invite speakers in. Yeah. So thank you, Christine. Those are also important items.
So should we do some picks, Anthony? What do you think?
Yes, I want to go first because I think people might take mine. Okay.
Okay.
I have been watching a new series. It's not a new series. It's a series. It is a workplace comedy that stars Steve Carell. He's kind of this like quirky boss, kind of slapstick comedy elements to it. Really jokes that in today's environment, you're like, wow, I'm really thinking about that. It is called The Office. It is on NBC. I think it's streaming somewhere. As far as I'm concerned, it's the only workplace comedy that Steve Carell has ever starred in, and it's the only one you should ever watch. So I'm picking The Office this week on Off-Nominal.
That is the most intense subtweet I've ever heard.
That was pretty aggressive, actually.
That's my pick.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to follow that.
I thought somebody might pick it, so I wanted to go first.
Yeah, no kidding. All right.
I'm so angry.
John, do you have a pick for us today?
Yeah, I am really enjoying a different mockumentary series called What We Do in the Dark. Or if you take the acronym of it, our family started calling it Dub Dub Dits. And it is awesome. It's about a house of vampires that are roommates. And it basically just explores what it would be like for a bunch of vampires to be sharing a house in Staten Island in 2019.
I don't know which is worse, the vampires or Staten Island. I can't tell.
I can confirm that this is maybe the funniest show on TV right now. It is.
Okay, this
is.
is the third endorsement I've heard of it today.
So
I've got to watch it.
Really,
if you've never heard of it, so you need to start with the movie, because it was originally a movie out of New Zealand, and they did like a movie about it, and it's like the same. It's like the same universe. In fact, the New Zealand characters make a cameo in the first season of the show in Staten Island. So watch the movie first, and you'll be in love with it, and then go watch the show because it's just as good. It's perfect.
Yeah. It's great. I'm already almost through season 2. I only started watching last week, and then I'm going to circle right back around, because it's one of those shows where you watch it again with better context, and you can start picking up all of the really fun Easter eggs and hidden things. And
it's the Arrested Development kind of style of like, that show just gets better every time I watch it.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And if you use that, if you start calling it Dub Dub Dits, you gotta give credit to the Johnson family over here.
Okay. Dub Dub Dits.
Dub Dub Dits fits right in with the week that I just had, which was Dub Dub DC in the Apple world. So this is like rolling right into my weekend now. This is great.
What We Do in the Shadows. Great show. All right.
Yeah, What We Do in the Shadows.
So I have a pick too. So I have a podcast to plug. I'm just getting into it, so I'm only 2 episodes in, but it's part of my greater regular self audit I do of making sure that I'm like diversifying who I'm listening to. So this is a podcast by 2 engineers. I think they're in Seattle, Anna and Henna, and the podcast is called But It Is Rocket Science.
Yes.
And I've been listening to 2 episodes, and it's really funny. And like Anthony, I was even gonna like talk to you, like we need to call these girls, because I think this is like another Off-Nominal duo that we need to like pair up with and have some total.
I think I got a recommendation for that a few months ago now. I forget when, but started listening, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. Like, tell me if this doesn't sound like Off-Nominal. I'm listening to it, and they're talking, and they go on this complete tangent about Eurovision, which is like that.
Oh wow,
like,
that does sound like Off-Nominal.
About like, it's like a music contest in Europe where like ABBA won, I guess.
Plus Australia.
Anyway, plus
Australia can send people. Yeah.
But so that's the kind of space show it is. They did a tangent about Eurovision, and I'm like, oh my god, this is exactly what we do sometimes. So yeah, it's been pretty good. I listened to an episode about aerospike rocket engines, and then I listened to an episode about like space medicine. That was pretty good. So I'm working through my podcast queue with them. They're really great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Boom.
Okay, so that's pretty much the show. John, thanks so much for spending an hour with us. This is really exciting. We're really stoked about the work you're doing with Banneker, and a huge shout out to all the listeners who have donated so far. We've got almost 2 weeks left. We really want to kind of drive it home in this last little bit. Hopefully, some of the context you've given will really help illustrate what you're doing. It's because it sounds just amazing.
Where should everybody go to follow you, Banneker, whatever else you want to plug? What's the links for the people?
Oh my! You can go to Astro John. You can hear me rant about all number of things on Twitter as Astro John. I think that's my name there.
It is.
What? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I have it pulled up over here.
There you are. I do have an Instagram page. I don't put a lot there, and I don't even remember the address. How about that?
Nor your password. You've forgotten your password at this point.
I definitely forgot the password. Matter of fact, the only way I'm on Twitter still is that it auto logs in on this computer right now. So I don't have the best social media presence, but yeah, I guess that's a good place to find me. You can also, I'm Googleable. I'm proud to say.
Google
so,
it.
You
are Googleable.
Yeah, you are.
You
got a really long Wikipedia page.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I should check that.
I need to check on that. I don't know what they're saying about me there now. But yeah. But I pop up. There's me and some NFL star who's named John Johnson as well. But
the name itself is a little bit challenging to Google, but you have. But
you got to throw in a third word on any
astronomy or Harvard or something.
Yeah, throw an extra word in there.
Bam.
You look
There
through
I
the
got
autocompletes, and that looks like the one I'm looking for.
Yeah, don't click the whatever the normal one. It says John Johnson girlfriend.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
like John
right.
Johnson like,
Birthday,
yeah.
height.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Jake, what have you been doing up lately? You've been posting a lot of shows, man.
Yeah, actually, it's been kind of a quiet month for We Martians. So we had a great episode with Tori Bruno out early in June, like June 1st or whatever it was, June 2nd. And I've been hard at work getting ready for Mars launch windows. So 3 missions launching in just a couple of weeks. There's going to be a new We Martians episode out next week that is like a preview. It's like everything you need to know about the 3 missions launching. And you can so if you've been under a rock and you haven't been paying attention, you just drop this in your feed and you'll have it all figured out.
Do you want to plug the thing for the launch, or no? Is that a secret?
Well, there's going to be, I don't know what it is yet. So it's a secret, and then I don't know what it is either. But we are going to, I will be live streaming something for the Perseverance launch, Mars 2020. So here's the plug. If you want to know what I'm doing for that, sign up for my mailing list. So that's wemartians.com/sign-up. And you'll get an email with all the details once I, figure it out, because it's 3 weeks away. I haven't planned that far out yet.
Yeah, you got a big month coming up, man.
Yeah, totally.
Huge.
This is the month I've been waiting for. So what about you?
Oh, I had some interviews this week. We talked to Mark Weiss, who is the program manager for Deep Space Logistics. They're doing the cargo resupply to the Gateway, which was fun.
This was a great interview.
That was a lot of fun to dig into, because I had a couple of axes to grind about that program. So we talked through some of my reservations with it. It was great. And then we just had Grant Bonnenon, who is now the Senior Vice President of Business Development at Spaceflight, one of your Canadian friends. We talked about selling people small satellites, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was a good time. And we talked about Ornithrocket.
Yeah, Synergy Ornithrocket, which is the weirdest thing you'll ever see on Twitter. And then,
Can you give me a discount on a small satellite?
I can hook you up. I'm not a great salesman, but we'll see what I can do.
He knows the guy now.
He's a sweetheart.
Just send me that discount code.
He's a sweetheart and Canadian, so you should be able to work this.
I mean, if you're doing all this like pretty cool work with tiny satellites, like what can you fit into a 3U CubeSat? You gotta be able to fit something in there, right?
Sure, we can do some work on that thing.
10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 30 centimeters. That's your box.
Seems like we could probably fit an 8-centimeter telescope in there and stare at one star for a long time.
Grant, I know Grant's listening. So there we go. Grant, hook him up.
Call me.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. End of test.
That was fantastic.
Awesome.
You want to hit pause or stop on that thing? Cool.
Yeah, so that cast window you see open there, John, will just upload in a second. Actually, I think it's already done. It's pretty fast. So that gives us the audio so we can publish that later. But other than that, yeah, we are good to go.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, and nice to meet y'all. I'll see you around.
Too. Can't wait to see you again.
Super fun, man. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Talk to you later. It's us. We're back. That was a fantastic episode.
That was so much fun. Are we still on YouTube?
We're still everywhere. We're still everywhere.
We're still everywhere. YouTube's still here.
Yeah, we're live. Don't do anything embarrassing.
I was going to take my clothes off, but that's not what you... Okay.
That was a deep episode.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
Oh my god. We hit religion, we hit race, we hit the existence of exoplanets, institutional issues across many industries.
Yeah. Media and science.
Media coverage of, oh my god.
That was very, very broad. Yeah.
Jeez. Chase is really not enjoying how zoomed we are. Here, I'll zoom mine out. Oop, that's the wrong way. How's that? Is that better, Chase? Is this better? We zoomed out a little.
You guys are awesome. I'm seeing all these Banneker donations rolling now. That's just fantastic. You guys are just... I know we've said it like 3 times now, but I am just like... I had super high expectations for this community, and you still...
Oh my god, man.
...blasted it out of existence. Like,
I thought... Yeah, I didn't underestimate people, but I had no concept for what this was going to be. And, like, we're approaching what I thought our final figure after everything, right? Like,
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah.
I was like,
you know,
5 digits would be cool as a final resting point for this. Is what I thought.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal now.
Holy shit.
Now
It's 5 before any of the match.
Yes. And I want to just kind of plug this idea again, because we talked about this kind of early in the first sort of explainer we did for this, but like this is our short term, like what are we doing right now, but we also want to do medium term and long term stuff, right? So like that's kind of, you want to keep the momentum going in how we're making things better. And so listeners, if you have ideas on what you think we could be doing for diversifying, our content, I would love to hear it. If you've got great guest ideas that we think that we're missing, I want to hear that. We're learning as we go, as we've said before, and trying to keep that open mind, right? So yeah.
Kevin got his JBFC pin, I see in YouTube chat. So.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that.
Up for that.
Do you want to do like a little?
Yes. So if you are waiting,
I got to record. Are you recording still?
No, I thought we were live on YouTube.
We are still. I didn't. Did you want to attach something to the episode?
Oh, maybe.
Okay. You can do. You can record it and send it to me later.
Actually, you know what? No, because by the time the episode comes out, a giant bulk of them are going to get it, so it's not going to matter anymore. But so if you are listening live on YouTube now, the pins, they're so close, most of them.
Close. Unless you're anywhere in Europe, at which point go to bed.
Yeah, if you're in the United States and you're waiting for your pin because you ordered it like a long time ago, like check your mailbox next week because it'll probably be there. A bunch of them hit Friday and today and stuff, so they're coming. But it's like, I tweeted this. I will never forget this adventure in shipping. This has been a complete nightmare.
Pull back the curtain a little on this. So Jake was attempting to fulfill these all from Canada, and then all hell broke loose, essentially.
Because we pre-planned this, right? So we've talked a little bit about how the JEB episode was sort of delayed a bit, right. And so we were originally timing this to kind of come out with that, and it just ended up being pushed too long that we decided to just launch it anyway. So when I priced out the pins and the shipping and the packaging and what the packaging would cost and what the packaging would cost to ship based on how much it weighed and how much it was sized, I did that all by driving down to the border, which is 25 minutes
into
from my
the
house,
US, right?
Into the US. I went to the USPS office and said, how much is it going to cost to ship this to the United States? And it said, it's like $1.50 or something. And I was like, perfect. And then I priced it all out. Boom, we launched it. And then COVID hit and our border is closed. So when I went to Canadian post office and asked the exact same question, instead of $1.50, it was like $9. We only sold the memberships for $10, and so that was not a particularly economical decision to make at the time. So we fought with them for a bit, and we went back to 2 or 3 different post offices to see if we could squeak it by or something, and they did not budge. So we ended up packaging all of them up into 3 shipments.
But what did you package them in, Jake?
Beer boxes.
Yeah, he used boxes from beer cans and other varieties of beer.
What do you think I would send?
I loved it,
obviously,
because it was. But he didn't just like slap a shipping label on a beer box. He had a beer box and then papered over the entire box. So I had
full
to
credit to my wife.
I had to stab through all of the layers of the paper.
Yeah.
Curse you, Robinses.
So we shipped the 3 packages to you. Really fun side note: the cost to ship the package to you was literally $17.76.
Yes, I love that.
I don't know. That's how much it cost for me to ship a package to the United States. I don't know how much more appropriate that. And it was like a flat rate because I did all 3 of them, and it was like the same price each time. And then Anthony did the tough job of sticking stamps on all of them.
Dude, that would be amazing if if we had a deal with every country in the world
to go to you.
Yeah. No. Like if every country in the world to mail us anything, you had to pay $17.76 in whatever local currency it was, just to like really send it home.
Yeah. So it was good. So anyway, so the delay was the fight with the post office and then getting it through customs to Anthony. That took, like, the shipping from me to you was, I think, 13 days or something. It was pretty
because what you said, like, holy shit, I think the boxes are lost because it took so freaking long to get to me.
Yeah.
But then what I said was, no, Jake, that is the Philadelphia United States Postal Service at work. Yes, we did in fact have the first postmaster live here. Yes, we did in fact invent it in this city. But no, it is not a fast post office by any means. But then on I got the whole boxes. They're in padded envelopes, all pre-labeled. Return address is Canada, so I had to return address them all because I was worried that they would think I was trying to commit mail fraud if I like dumped all of these Canadian addresses.
I do that all the time from the U.S., so don't worry about it.
I just felt weird about it. So then I took the envelopes to the post office and I said, how many stamps do I need for this? What's the deal? And they all told me it was going to be $3 to send these envelopes anywhere because they're not an envelope, they're a large package or whatever, which didn't make any sense with the signage at all.
No.
So then I sent some test samples with I sent a test sample with 2 stamps. I sent a test sample with 1 stamp. There's a different size envelope. I sent an additional 1 stamp test. All arrived. And I tried to send them to people that lived closest to me so I can get the quickest response time on that. All arrived, so the whole batch hit the mail. And it looks like everyone else's is arriving. So if you're in the U.S., you probably are getting it this week. And if you're international, you're going to get, some of you are going to get it this week. Some of you are going to get it an indeterminate length of time from now.
Yeah. Unless you're one of the people that bought it after the JB episode, because that got a little bit of press. And so there was a little rush of orders, whatever, a week ago.
I do love that you claim to not be a scooper the episode after we literally had a scoop on this show.
That's pretty funny, yeah. So the JB orders are in the mail, clearing customs on the way to Anthony right now, so they'll be a little bit longer, but most of them. And then I should also just apologize for the shirts too, because that's just like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
Yeah, I know. Ben is in the chat here. He's like one of the worst cases of.
Ben is the worst.
Yeah, he ordered on May 8th, I think, and he's gonna get it next week. Like it's just, it's unbelievable. But the suppliers, I mean, we use the same supplier, Anthony, so I don't know what you've seen for your shirts, but it's just brutal right now.
Nobody's been ordering shirts, and I have some new designs in mind, and I haven't made them because I saw how terrible Printful is handling.
You can't even upload them right now. They're
right,
blocking
that's what, yeah, you said that.
Designs,
and I was like, no, I didn't.
So I wanted to make a Mars 2020 shirt, and no, I'm not. So
do it for landing.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Do it for landing. So hopefully that's all cleared up. So anyway, I'm deeply embarrassed about the service level I've been providing with facilitation. So,
all bets
but you
are
guys
off
have been
these
very,
days.
you guys have been very patient. So I really appreciate it.
Man, great show.
That was really fun.
Great show.
Right. Yeah, Ben's saying he's not worried about it, and I know you guys aren't. No one has given me. They've asked questions, but no one has given me flack, which is just a testament again to how cool you all are. But that does not change the fact that I hate myself and I can't sleep. So,
Jake, there's somebody in the YouTube chat that is trying to talk about exoplanet atmospheres. And
oh yeah,
you have some sort of email from them, but their name is Martian Colonist, so I don't know. You're gonna have to work to find that email.
Oh, is that I know who that is. That's exoplanet atmospheres, Martian colonists. That's I'm blanking now because I've had too many beers. So I guess he's into beer now. It's fruity though. It's good.
I feel like I had another topic. I don't know. I'm looking around for my prop. I thought I had a prop, but I don't.
I don't have any props. I've got
I
nothing.
do have this.
I have no kittens anymore. I can't do
this,
anything
this
like that.
Pelican case that I have for all of our mic equipment for when travel is allowed again.
When we're allowed to leave that.
I have stuck it.
Nice.
I have stickered it.
Do you need a wee Martian sticker?
I do actually. I think I'm out of them.
Fuck! I could have slapped him in that damn box I just sent to you.
You know what? I might have one. I have 2 boxes of swag, and I might be in the second box.
But
it's at the bottom of my closet.
Like, how could you not have a wee Martian sticker?
Yeah.
Haven't I? But like, I think I buy most of your Miko stickers, and I don't have any Miko stickers.
No.
So, like,
you buy all of my Miko stickers. I've never purchased a sticker in my life.
So yeah, that's how that goes. I'm the sticker guy.
This looks pretty good though, doesn't it? It's a nice.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
I've got like.
It's nice and compact. That's smaller than I thought it was from the pictures.
Well, no, there's 2. There's 2.
Oh.
This one has. This one is a microphone, and then the lav mics.
Okay, nice.
So that's that one. I will hold it here for size comparison. This is the Zoom bad boy.
Oh, nice.
See how, whoa. Giant.
I think I saw your shirt ship today, Anthony.
It did. I just got the email, actually.
Ben
We'll have it for
saying
landing.
Incomplete getting the season 3 and 4 mission. There were no season 1 and 2, Ben, so don't worry about it. I only invented it in season 3, so you have all of them. This the season 4 one if you guys haven't seen it. It's got 2 astronauts that are supposed to be Jessica Meir and Christina Cook. It's hard to tell from them, but oh yeah, you got one. That's right. Better camera. That doesn't do very well for focusing near term, eh?
I have an upgrade I want to buy, but
I gotta figure out what I
trying to
want to do
convince
with,
my wife that it will be good for the child.
I have all these patches, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell to do with them.
Noah asked for a baby arrival update, which there might be people listening that don't know because I've only said it in the Discord. But
I was gonna say, yeah, you're on YouTube right now, aren't you?
Yeah, I know I am.
Whoops.
It's not a macro lens, but I do want to buy one of those. Late August, 8 weeks ish, or whenever he shall decide. So we'll see what happens. Kurt, the upgrade I'm thinking is a 35mm prime lens. For reference, I have this zoom level at 35 precisely, but it will be easier to deal with because this is a big old boy. This lens, and macro focus as well. Focus. I think the min distance is like 6 inches, which would be like this, which this does not do.
No.
So,
but I've got I have the Falcon Heavy one we got.
I have that, but it's in a windowed display box that I'm not supposed to show.
Yeah, that's like High Seas one. This cool Vulcan one I got at IAC. Where
did you get that one?
I don't remember.
That's a cool patch.
Yeah, it's rad, man. It's like the full.
That rocket's not gonna look like that, but it's a cool patch.
No, it's not. I have Brendan's patch when he did one. Remember that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sold it for $32.10. 3210. Got a Curiosity rover one and a Pathfinder rover one.
What are you gonna do with all these?
I'm trying to figure that out. That's what I'm trying to decide. So I could do I have this thing to these sound panels here. I was thinking one on each one of these might be kind of cool. But no, you're saying no.
I'm saying no.
Okay. All right.
No. Ben also in the Discord says no.
The other idea
shadow
is
box.
Spot.
Yeah, he says shadow box.
That's a giant shadow box, right?
What?
So anyway, I gotta decide. That's the point of this story.
Here's my shadow box. It's not that big.
I'd show you mine, but I have to cover the whole thing up.
Secrets.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we got here.
I think that's it.
Good show. Great show.
Good after show.
Fact. We keep your eyes peeled for that Mars 2020 event that Jake was talking about.
WeMartians.com/sign up, but that most of you are probably patrons if you're listening to the Discord and you're already on the list.
Lars wants me to show the X51. Do you mean the X15? Is that what he means?
No, the X51.
I don't have one of those. I don't think anyone does.
Which one's the X51?
I don't think that exists. What
Boeing
is the black
X51
thing?
Wave Rider.
Oh, Wave Rider.
Oh, that's like a thing.
This is some nose art. Is this a good visual of it?
Yeah, it looks good. Now it's not focused anymore.
Let me do this. Let me switch to just me. So people can see. Is it in focus? Wave Rider. I need to see the Wave Rider.
It looks like a Kepler telescope with a rocket engine on the back.
That thing's very loud. All right, I'm looking up the X-51, and then we're getting out of here. Oh, that thing. The crazy like hypersonic thing. Yeah, that's right. The crazy hypersonic.
Seriously though, it looks like a Kepler telescope with a rocket engine.
Kind of does actually. Ben, I will post a link to where that came from. I did not buy it. It was a gift, and it was an epic gift that is now on my backdrop. And with that, folks, that'll do it here on Off-Nominal. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for hanging out.
We love you.
Totally awesome.
But what was that?
That was
Oh, that was a wrap it up. Bye. Oh, the
Cut
fireworks
it
are
out,
back.
right?